Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're taking a look at round 2 of the Street Dance Girl Fighter Season 2 season. And so I've been doing full episode reactions of this season as well as the first season, but I have not seen the full episode of this, so I'm really coming into it blind. The only thing I know is that the name of this challenge is called World Class Teenager Mission, or that's what it translates over to. So I'm assuming, just my assumption, that this is going to be what is the true colors of the crew and how they want to depict themselves as a world class level crew. Because mostly for the entire franchise, whether Street Man Fighter or Street Woman Fighter, the very last mission has always been showcase your true colors as a crew. So that's what I'm going to project onto this, and it would only seem natural to kind of assume that as well, because all of the groups of the second season of this series is basically going to be world class, meaning that a lot of international, or they're just all different, come from different walks of life, different crews, different countries, a lot of those things. So it's really nice to see all of them come together under a particular name and a particular team, just to see where they started to where they are now. I'm very excited to see. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a watch. Gorgeous! Honestly, that projection is freaking killer. This is an amazing click. I would put this on my profile picture. Like, this is a sick finish with that eclipse happening. Very nice. So, initial thoughts. It makes sense why 1 million did not win. Here's why. Not because of this set, but their set before from round 1. If they're isolating it to the finals, but also note too, there is judging that's taking place. I don't know who actually is counting in the votes. Is it all live stream votes when this is done live? I don't freaking know. Like, I don't know any of that. So I can only go off of what I do know, which is if I were just isolating the finale, which is this last episode of these 2 rounds, this was a very, very well done routine. Their first set, however, with 1 million, I placed it 4th out of the 4 teams of round 1. Because I felt like they didn't quite utilize their mentors as effectively. They did take a more playful role. It's different, and I appreciated what they did, but it did read very similarly to how MANNEQUEEN's read at finals in Street Woman Fighter Season 2, and I said the same notes there of it's simple. They wanted to do something that looked like, you know, it was just fun and enjoyable, but it didn't feel like they made that routine with winning in mind. That's kind of my best way to word it, I think, because it's definitely on the simpler side compared to the complexity of content that other groups brought for that round with their mentors. So, but going here, I really liked the concept. This was fun. It was different. It was intense. Great projection. I love the usage of the fog. Really fun to see here. Cool song too. I've heard it before, But I love this energy with the bleed through, with the foot extension, then having everybody come up. Now, I guess my first question would be, is there too much fog? I don't know, but I really love this peekaboo of extensions. It really feels like we're walking onto dangerous terrain in a good way. And that also helps with the overall environment set by the projection on the screen. That's why your lighting really helps with this kind of stuff, your effects. I really love this. I love that dip down, really nice. Also, they are operating with one less dancer than they normally have for the entire show. Jam Republic has lost a member almost every single challenge, and they did not have Miyabi for their round 1, but I did hear they do have her for round 2. Haven't seen it yet, but we will catch that and see that for ourselves. I really do like seeing them here, and they did a very good job considering they are down 1 member when they're used to operating with 7. You can see a bit of a hole in, like a gap in some of the formations. You can notice that, but honestly, pick your battle sometimes with turnaround time. Sometimes you're like, just commit to it and it'll be fine, which I very much think so. Like, this was great. Dun, dun, dun. I do think this is one of their fingerprints we can go ahead and establish for them as a group, even though this is probably one of the last performances with all of them that honestly, last week was the last time we saw all 7 of them perform together. So seeing this here, I really like it. They do a great job of having really fun, complex tutting moments mixed in with texture and dynamics with their syncopation of their timing. That does help create a really captivating picture that does make it difficult to digest in a good way. Meaning there's so much to take in that you don't know what to look at first, which is really enjoyable to see here. And so I love that ding ding. I love her usage of placing her flexibility of her extension so you can really see that that isolated wave, peeling it back. And I love having her feature in the center. Really nice. I love that ding ding. Matches the strings beautifully here. Love it. Dun dun boom boom. Commitment with the face, that matters. Looking front while doing it versus looking at it does look different, and I love that here. Boom boom. I do feel like one of our dancers on the far left, if you look at her here, I do feel like her arms, it could be lighting. I may just chalk it up to that, though it just felt a little off. Yeah, I'll just think it's a lighting thing for that. Not really a bad thing. Great on the symmetry on this. Diving it through. Woo. Lead it down. And now it goes boom. Boom. Love that. And they look down. Boom. And I love how they drop it down. They're hitting. Now, I do feel like we could be interpreting this part of the music a little predictably. Whenever you hear this, a lot of times you do see vibrations, and that is something we quite obviously see here. And they do have a lot of tension holds too that we already kind of held during that tutting section, which is why it does feel a bit not labored, but it does feel a bit overly placed, that dynamic specifically of that tension pull. So that would just be my note of maybe approaching that little baby section a little bit differently. That would have really helped enhance it and not make it feel like we're just extending what we did in the tutting section in terms of dynamics. See, even there, we still have that tension happening. But I love that twist. That was nice. You know, I do feel like we are even there. This is our first very obvious sign we do have somebody missing. So my note would have been here to have her scoot over to be in this line right here, or to have her scoot literally back right here to be in line with my other dancer. That would have been the better option, just so it maintains symmetry to share the center. But to each their own. I do not know how quickly this, I don't know if it was they did all of it and then right literally the day before something happened, or in the inception they lost a member. I don't know any of that. So I am going to chalk that up to turnaround time was too fast for them to change any formation already established. So dipping it through, boom, and through, and then you notice they kind of bled through one side to the other. I really like that choice. Instead of everybody bleeding to one side, or everybody on one side bleeding this way and everybody on this side bleeding this way, we have like everybody except for one going, but it's symmetrical on both sides, so it really works. It's fun. With the kick extension was really nice. Some of them did choose to commit with the chest to let that head go. I do like that. I don't know if everybody did it though, so that would be my one little note. Yeah, some people just reset, and I know it's part of the transition, but everybody would need to commit to that in order for it to be a really nice progression of the sound vacuum that's taking place on the track. I like this, boom, 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 but we are obviously missing someone else here. that did feel a bit empty because you went from 1 to 2 to 2 and then back to 1. If she was placed in the center, it could have read differently. I don't know. That once again, turnaround time, something happened. There's a good chance somebody got injured or something happened during the prep for this, because they wouldn't, if she was injured or something happened before they even started the challenge, these formation issues wouldn't be happening. But because they are obviously there, something happened and they had to make adjustments. So I understand that. Shaking through is really nice to see that. Down and up. I do love the fact that we get to see parents representing for the kids. I think that's great. Yeah, D. Did that feel a bit empty? Possibly. Kind of felt like a placeholder of energy, but I didn't mind it because she did hit the music well. Now it does feel like we're riding really elegant pterodactyls is what this is giving to me, but I like it. It's a nice little vibe here. I'm thriving in it. It's cool. It does give not post-apocalyptic, but it does give that dystopian, extraterrestrial vibes, but with a little bit of elegance from the Korean traditional wear. It just gives that in a sense, but not quite. I don't know how else to word it, but I do really like this. Of course, we're dealing with another symmetry issue here. Yeah, that right there. Notice it did feel like we are supposed to have somebody right here. So the more I'm seeing these formation discrepancies, the more I'm like, this was a last minute thing that happened. So they're doing a fabulous job considering that. I love that they're popping it off. Great energy and great job on the synchronization of the fabric. It is really hard when you deal with a prop or an extension of your costume that you are using to help enhance a particular part of your story or choreography. They do a very nice job of making sure everyone's throwing it at the same rate, at the same time, as well as what part of their body are they throwing it with, because that does affect how the fabric moves. So they're doing a very good job with commitment, even to the heads. Really nice work on that. Bleeding it over, boom, and flinging it through. I love that boom, boom, boom. I love that triple on that. It was cool. With the head, they do a great job of having these extra shakes or these extra interruptions that are slightly different than what you would normally see. So I like those choices. This is a very nice depiction of how they are as a group. And now right there too, notice that we did have a gap happening on it's their stage left, our right side. Sliding it through, open the door, boom. I like the spiral with the dancers as she kind of threw them. They spiraled. I think that was a really cool choice there. And I love that ding, 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 ding. We have seen this sequence, that exact sequence before. I don't remember quite where, but I have seen that in one of their tutting situations that they've done in the show. So that would be my note, to vary up your tutting fingerprints, because that's something that is a fingerprint now of yours. You have to continue to enhance it, refine it, and make it more and more showcasing that this is you, but you're not stagnant and set in your ways. And that's something that unfortunately led to Bebe's demise, I think, in the last challenge, was that they had a great set, but they were still settled in their ways, like we saw from the first interim that we noticed. But everybody else kept elevating and elevating when it comes to risk-taking and concepts and things of the like. So that's something that I noticed just a little bit here with 1 million. It could be because of the overall captivation of their set from the last challenge really made the bar of expectation for the majority of people higher. For me, I did have a natural sense of a higher elevation if they have to do something to help beat what they did before, because that's your overall goal as a crew, is to continue to create and elevate and better yourself. And part of the ways we see that is your set more risky, or is your set more captivating than what we saw before? And we all knew, literally a week ago that we had this conversation, we all knew that was going to be a really hard thing for them to overcome, because sometimes when you're too good too early, you can backfire, because that's exactly what happened with Bebe, and that's what we're starting to see here with 1 million. And this is not discrediting how amazingly captivating this performance is, but remember, they are competing against 3 other crews. So I love that with the back group using the fabric in the front not. That was a really great dynamic, or really great usage to help make that movement more full. The build-ups is nice. Boom, boom, they drop it down, then they go into their final pose. Gorgeous. Like, this is such a cool, I'm so glad they picked this as a thumbnail. It looks freaking sick. Cool. Do I understand the concept 100%? Not really, but I love I love this presentation because it is a little different than what we saw from 1 mil. Check. Is there a couple things that overlap between the challenges, meaning maybe some sequences that were the same, some of the energy presentation were we kind of lagging a little bit on some of the tension choices that were made throughout certain pockets of the track? Yes, but this is a very great run for finals, absolutely, and I'm so glad we got to see it, and they did a great job operating with just 6 people when they're so used to 7 for the majority of the competition. So this was a great set from them. I'll have to wait till I see all the other groups to see where I would place 1 mil in lineup. In terms of the final rankings, because I do know Jam wins. I do not know 2nd through 4th, so that would be what I'm going to be focusing on. Yo, these fits are sick. Oh, that background is sick. Woo! Oh my God, this is cool. We do have a lot of unison, but I love the transitions on some of this stuff. Our dynamics are super cool. Movement quality on this is so nice. That was really cool. When it comes to movement quality, I'm very appreciative of this one. Do I think it was the cleanest? No, I don't. But I really, honestly, I love the costuming environment. I love the tone of this a lot. It's very, very collaborative between their heritage, their culture, and street styles. It's so fun. I love seeing this. Having the energy of this was cool. Boom. And I love the choice of the slow here. Solid red. Divine. Love it. They stop and they look front and then they go boom. Now having this here, do I feel like it would have looked better if they actually did their body instead of their arms? Yes. Arms are more unpredictable in range in comparison to the torso based on positioning. So I think that would have read a little bit cleaner in general if they chose to do the torso versus the arms, but I appreciate the risk of going arms there. And you can also reverb longer or rebound longer in arms than you can with torso. That was nice. Boom, 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 boom. Transition through. Now here with the vibration, notice that some of them are using their arms to do the vibration and some are using their full body. That would need to be something to have been clarified. Well, actually, yeah, some of them are doing here with the head and some of them are doing the full body. That looks different to the tone. And that's something that we can very clearly see between these two people. But I love the commitment of the performance there, but notice some of them are taking a more stoic approach. That right there, boom, notice how they set it up. Yep, even there, I feel that what really set this back was there wasn't clarification on where we're reverbing. We just had a position we're told to reverb it, or we were told to have a dynamic or texture to it, but we didn't clarify, like we didn't take that extra step, clarify what muscle groups, what part of the body is actually initiating that reverb, because it does change the refinement of how it's going to come across. Now, does it make me enjoy it any less? No, I loved this. I have loved all of the routines I've seen so far. But are any of them perfect? No. Remember, this is a very quick turnaround time for a lot of these routines. You're going to find bigger discrepancies in this finals than we would have seen in other challenges, strictly because you have 2 full routines. You got mentors in the mix on it. You got injuries happening with some of these groups, something crazy happening. There's so many unpredictable elements taking place on this, and they are creatively fatigued. Notice that we've had a lot of interim choreographies done on top of challenges themselves that are very high in stress. Even though in the finals, the stressful part about it is we want to win, or it's just doing well. It's a little different than I don't want to get eliminated, because you don't really get eliminated at this point because it's the finals. So you're looking at this from that lens of they are very dry in the creative stamina. So the groups that have more creative risks and they still maintain their performance and cleanliness and synchronization and dynamics and levels and textures, those are going to be the teams that rise to the top. And so far, I mean, I haven't seen jams yet, but as soon as I see jams, if they do those things, that would make the clearest sense as to why they won, because they showcased more versatility and they didn't stay stagnant in what they're good at. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like other groups are exploring other things, but the underlying foundation is the same. Here, the foundation of Hook is the same. We've added a different dynamic to it. I'd say so far the one that's really showing up and showing out more so than normal would be MANNEQUEEN. But I haven't seen the round 2 yet. But the round 1 was very nice. I put them pretty much at the top for round 1. And I really like their presentation, just out of personal preference of their opener. But they have struggled. They've been pretty average for the majority of the rest of the show. So that's why I 2nd through 4th is probably going to be a toss-up for me for different reasons, because I don't know how the judging is going to work, if it's for anyway. But going back to this, that's my biggest note in all of this. That's why the timing looks a bit off a lot of the times, or the dynamics don't look quite as refined. That's why we didn't clarify where the dynamic is originating from, and that matters in the overall picture you're making, like in that position. I love the branching over, bleeding it down, boom, over and drop. There, even there, some people are using their head to initiate, some are using their chest. That affects how fluid that can come across. It looks a bit rigid. I love the look there. Notice there, boom, everybody dropped and had that motion because they were being controlled by the same thing. I love how they come up. Even there, they came up by the body and the chest, like from the back. That, they all came up the same way. That's why it was clean there. I love that boom, boom. This background is absolutely freaking gorgeous. Like, that is like, that can be a wallpaper in my room. Like, I'd be so content with if this was this. But I live with a roommate who would never let us put that up because that's just not on her color wheel at all. But this is so gorgeous, though. I love that. This was gorgeous. Dun dun. That's where you get this is where a lot of traditional movements coming into play right here, and I love it. It feels communal. That right there was super sick. I love that. Boom, do do do. Great transition. Then we drop, 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 and then having them push back. There's probably, if you could let me know what traditional, where did they glean their traditional section of this from? Because I do know in Korea, there's like the drum, there's like the fan dance, the drum dance. There's different dances depending on eras or dynasties. So please let me know if you are a history buff where they did disclose that. Please let me know, because I would love to learn more. For me, the more I watch, specifically Asian shows, in line of we get to see cultural crossover, whether that's from Street Dance China or from the Street Fighter series, or just in general when I just watch content, I am in love with seeing crossover between something that's very culturally, foundationally sound on top of the other street styles being integrated. I just find so much beauty in that, because it's something that I do within my own culture of the different like studio culture aesthetics with street culture aesthetics, marrying them to where they're more cohesive and respectful of each other. So I'm very sensitive to that, and my music choices are definitely harmonious in that way too. So, but going back to this, I really love how they built this, how they go over and they go over the tension as they went over, and the slowness of having the above and the below. I really love that. They gave like a low-key yin and yang vibe. It did remind me of Whedon Boys where they did that little the little jump roping vibe when it comes from people being obviously high and obviously low, but this was it read differently, but I understood the dynamic. I've seen the dynamic before. That right there, boom and ding ding ding. I really like that choice. But notice there is a bit of a muddledness in the choices. They're not drastic enough for us to be very clear on who's featured and who's not. Love this here. Doon, doon, bring it around and down. On the knees, I love that. The risk of dropping to the knees and coming back up. That's a lot harder than you think, and I love it. With the head ISO, which was cool, boom, and bringing it through. And the ding, ding, ding. Love that too. Around. I love the energy going into the circle, the lighting. Kudos to them for being pretty on top of where the formations are, because a lot of this lighting is probably programmed based on the music, because the more higher tech your lighting is, the more programming is required to make it do what you want it to do. Hence why they prefer to not manually have to do these. Or like manually set them up in the moment. They program it and then they're cued on a certain part of the music to let it go and let it happen. That's from personal experience with our Christmas performance recently. We had that, even though we have like spotlights. The spotlight cannot manually shift to where we want it to go. We program it to where we want it to go, and we have to tell our dancers they have to be from point A to point B at a certain amount of time. So going here, notice that no one's in the obvious light. Everyone's equal in the light. So that's very important to note here. So I love that energy on that. I love that boom, and they drop it down. Presenting up, that right there. Yes to this. I just love the little pockets of heritage. It's very overwhelming for me. I love seeing it because it shows that you have pride in who you are. And I love that. I love that because I feel like I get to learn so much. Like, dance really helps you learn so much about a person or about a group, you know, the physical, because it's a physical representation of what we're listening for. So it helps me have more guidance behind what I'm listening to, you know, and they're doing a great job of that and the commitment to that. And we're here. And I love this here. I love that, like they're bowing, and here's our leader presenting forward. I love the prayer hands here. Yeah, boom, boom, I love that. Yeah! Presenting energy, great. Love it. And they go boom, boom. Absolutely love this here. Boom. Now, I do know with this type of outfit, forgive me when I'm wrong, I'm only going off of my drama knowledge, you know, or whenever I do secondary research on history of dynasties and stuff, but forgive me for that. It's been a hot minute since I've done that. This type of outfit, I mean, the color, I'm not going off of the coloring, I'm going off of the actual fit of it. Normally men would wear this, right? Or it'd be like if they were out, well, of course, how they would wear their hair would matter, but here their hair is much more loose. So I don't know the dynasty, and that's fine. But I would say this right here, it gives like they're going hunting, or it's more of like when you're doing a physical activity is when this type of outfit would be worn. Or if you're like a guard or somebody who's playing like that role of a not a soldier, but someone who's like a guard for royalty, or if you are royalty yourself. And that would be where like the color comes into play, and the fit, and what type of headgear you're wearing, or how you have your hair. But mostly men would wear this, not women. So I love the fact that we're seeing this here though, because it just shows their, I just think it just shows very, there's a lot of power exuded here. And I love the fact that they're wearing this, because it's the whole vibe for me. I love it. Yeah, boom, boom, boom. I love that there. Bringing it down, cleaning it up, boom, with the accents. Now, my nose still stands. It's not quite as clean as refined, and it goes back to my very big point. We're not choosing where we're initiating a lot of these movements, especially in unison. You can tell that a lot easier. I love that hit and bleed over. We are chilling in unison a lot more too. That which is nice. With the vibration, it does feel like the vibration is starting to stall out about halfway through the initiation of it, so that would be my note there. And my middle dancer, she has it pretty isolated to her hands, which doesn't read as powerful as using your entire back. So that would be my note there. If she wanted to make that more powerful, that would help. Bringing it back in, also knowing here, it does look like she was trying to do more of an isolated cobra. Don't quote me on that. But with that, you have to make sure you're very clear on the direction of where you're going with it so I can see what you're going for. So that did feel a bit muddled there. Could be because of lighting, outfits, because attire can affect that too. The melt through, I love that. Bleeding, a little interruption there. I love the fact that they put that in because the joint performance, they learned how to do that for the first time, so it feels like we've elevated it with the 3 kicks. Shout out to Hook for putting that in their own set. I love it. Love that little that slide down, which was nice. And a little bit of locking there, ding, 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 brr, brr. And then we finish. I love this finish, and how, it's just really nice. I think it's very fitting, and I'm always a fan. I'm always a fan of cross-cultural representation and commitment to both sides. It's definitely something I can get behind, and I tend to admire it a lot because it's something that I wish one day I would hope to be able to do this as well as an appreciator of different cultures, to be able to showcase and bring that to the studio world, because I feel like all styles and genres deserve to be recognized and appreciated and respected in any space. So I think this was really nice to see from Hook. It's pretty strong. I do feel like their mentor performance from round 1 was a bit stronger than this, I think, compared, because so far, if I'm comparing between Hook and One Mill was definitely on the complexity in their clumps with tuts and vibrations. I think they brought more complexity, but essence, I really liked the essence of Hook, but it did dive a little bit more simplistic on some of their content. But their energy that they brought was definitely on par with One Mill, so I'll give them that for sure. Woohoo! Here we go. Jam Republic.
Today, 4 of us is on stage. Starting from 7, now 4. We've overcome many difficulties, but once again, we will get through. Because together, we are strong. Together, we are unstoppable. United,
it's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Yo, stop the tape, hold on. Listen, man, this switch is not a game, it's going down. We ain't playing with y'all, and we doing this for the
Look like I'm just a kid of how I made me feel. All black is like I do what I wanna. I go when I gotta. I'm sexy, I'm free, and I feel vulgar.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Actually, I really like her makeup. That looks awesome. Okay. So that was very, very, very well done. So once again, I'm going to say the same thing I've said every single time. I think for the past couple challenges now, be very mindful whenever you pursue very sexual movement. I'm never going to be a fan of it when underage kids do it. Ever, ever. So that's my one note. They did do better on the facials for it. I will give them that.
Is on stage.
Also, let me say this too. Starting from 7, now at 4. So I'm looking. Miyabi probably had a injury based on the context of how she came out. Love the fact that she was able to have her moment on stage. That was awesome. Interesting too that we made the choice to do spoken word is kind of how you would have this in the beginning. Now, from being very exposed to the spoken word realm of competition dance, it can be done very cheesy and done very real. Here they teeter more towards it feels authentic, and they're not overpowering the music. I think they do a couple of times during the Charlie Puth section, but they do a very good job nonetheless with the overall depiction of what's being talked about. And I love the fact that we have Korean, Japanese, and English, and at the very end they said we're Jam Republic in their respective languages, and I love that.
Now 4. We've overcome many difficulties.
You absolutely have.
Again,
they've experienced probably some of the most professional growth and skill sets compared to any other crew. So out of anything, even if they didn't win, they won in terms of experience, because they understand how to operate with a group of 7, a group of 6, a group of 4, and a group of 5. So like they're the only crew that's had to operate out of that many groups. Does that make sense? Which is crazy. Because together we are strong. It does feel like Sienna just like threw her to the ground. Like, we're not together. but I understand that together we're strong. She was trying to probably showcase the struggle that comes through the trying and trying again.
We're unstoppable.
I love that that our leader is the one that is depicting this beginning. Fun. It's been a long... Now with this style, when you do this type of song, you notice there's not a lot of layers to represent. So you can't do too much because it's going to feel inauthentic. It's going to feel like you're overkilling the track, and it doesn't feel like you're diving into the intimacy of why there's only a select number of layers represented in the song. So here they're doing a very good job. It's been a long tension. Waving is always a good choice to do when you do a more intimate piece, because waving, you can make it subtle, you can make it very big and full, and you can build with it. And there's a lot of dynamics that you can get from popping that help, because waving in American culture of street styles is where it derived from as a dynamic choice from popping. So I love this. Without you, my friend. I do feel like we're really throwing our body, but I understand, like, with only 4 people on a big stage, I understand that they have the need to feel more full. That would be my one note. But they don't stay in this type of song for very long. They really pop off, and it's totally fine. But I love that this part right here is great. See you again. So that little segment was a lot nicer because it wasn't overpowering like this, blah, blah, like the throwing and the fullness, because Charlie's not exuding that in his tone. So there's no basis to showcase that. Do you know what I mean? Because music directs a lot of times what we do choreographically, or it should be more collaborative than a lot of times you have movement that's so loud with a quiet track, and a song that's so loud and the movement's too quiet. So having it meld like this would look a lot nicer, but they do a very good job. They're clean. I love that long way. This is also a very different concept that we've seen from anybody else. They're the only ones that really tackled this type of spoken word, more contemporary type of track in the challenge. So I think that really worked in their favor too. And it was real, and it really felt like they're showcasing themselves as a crew, which is they're the only crew that can say what they said in their spoken word, right? So they're operating at the biggest deficit compared to everybody else. Oh, look, I like this part. D D D D D D D. So it's more of a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 compared to tell you all about it when I so have the downbeats. Do a good job of which foot is going to be presenting forward with the pull down. So that was a really nice choice. Yep, see you again, and they drop down, they come up. Now it's just a slight, they're not quite centered, so that would be one thing, because the chairs also help with that too. Where your chairs go matters in the symmetry as well as who's your center. Right now it does feel like we have too many people over on this side. This should be where your center is, but notice that the center here is there. So it's just a little bit off there. And as they came up, I think one of them came up a little too late. But at the end of the day, we have an aerial shot, which is why we can really catch that. Whose guardian is that? I have no idea. But she looks like a definite supporter of Jam Republic. Could be her mom. I have no idea. But it's really nice to see family members here representing the group. I love that. Right here, they're like, listen. Love that. Now this, she does a fabulous with her best presentation with her face. I love it. Progress has been made. I absolutely love seeing that here. We're going. Now this is very impressive with only 2 people to have her get this much airtime and dropping it down. We didn't quite catch that bass near that. Yeah, that boom. And it also looks like she fell. But it could just be, she actually rode with it really well to where it could have just been a preference thing where she goes and she drops all the way down. It could be that they use the pull boom, using that sound. This was a great example of using that sound well. Another boom, and then they grab it and then they go right there into a footwork. Super fun. Picking it up. And with the amount of bulkiness that this has, like the type of outfit, it's tricky to get everybody on the same page, but they're doing a very good job of making that happen. So cheers to that. Now, I understand that we've seen a progression of her specifically being able to present a more feminine, like representation of herself, but also my note is I do feel like we don't quite have to do this because we're children. She's still a child. Even if she was the legal age, we're still, it's street dance girl fighter, not street woman fighter. It's just, I'm just not, for this series, I'm not going to ever be like, that was awesome making that choice. I wish we made a different choice. But they committed to it very well, and that's the discomfort, is that they commit to it really well, and they shouldn't have to at their age. So having this type of energy, they bring it down. No, this is also another hot spot. I like that boom, boom, ding, 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 drop. I love this here. Yep, so Sienna's doing a really good job. She goes up and then she drops and commits. I think my one note is it did feel like she kind of collapsed into the dip. She didn't quite commit where you have that really clear defined dip established, but I understood exactly what she was going for, so I totally understand that. I love the energy when we're here, and then brings her out in black. And we're here. And they're all like, here we go, Phil. Look at the extension. That's a Miyabi extension right there. Here she is. Love it. I love it with the overheads. Boom, boom, boom. Very tense. She's such great movement quality. And I do know for her, she felt I understand. She may have felt the need to really go for this really like overly sensual perspective. And I know she is one of the older ones, but still my note still stays the same regardless. Whenever because she can't do too much, she has to make do with her poses, her tension, and how she goes from point A to point B. Full commitment from her. Love her movement quality immensely. It just goes back to, I wish that we could have done it a little different to not really come across as overly sensual. But notice her facial expressions aren't making it like, it's not animalistic sensuality. This is still, like I said, this is mostly teetering. It's not full crossover. What the crap are we doing? You know, like what we saw from one of the other challenges. I really made that note clear. But here it's we are teetering, but it's not 100% like we shouldn't do that. It's I wish, suggestion wise, we could have set it up a little different, but I also know we're operating with an injury. I don't know what kind of injury based on the context of this, but she's doing a really good job holding it down and integrating well. Hit on the butt. I don't feel like we needed to do that, but even there, the swing through, I understand what she has to do. She modified 1 and a 2 that was more fierce. That wasn't it was different in connotation there. So the swing, like everybody moving around, going through, laying down, still having Miyabi have a moment. Love the fan, gorgeous, and everybody accenting that with a different level represented. That right there, boom, boom, and a da-da-da. I love that. Not very many people can hit a single into a double like that so seamlessly the way Miyabi does. She does a very good job on this style, like very much so. And I love right here at the end, boom, right there, popping off to Jam Republic. I absolutely love that because it really does tailor off into what we saw from one of the first times we saw Jam Republic compete on the show. It was right here. I'm a mess. Their K-pop challenge to Les Serafim's track, I think, right? Against MANNEQUEEN. So all in all, very good set from them. We did teeter once again. It's something that I've said every single time I've watched them perform. We do teeter a little bit on being a little too overly sexual in certain aspects. They're kids. You can't tell me I'm wrong on that. Okay, you can tell me that I'm wrong on it and we can agree to disagree. I'm not compromising on that. That's the one thing out of all hundreds of analysis I've done, that's the one thing I'm not going to compromise on. So if you have beef with me about that, that's absolutely fine. Please be cordial in the comments about it, and we will respectfully have conversation about it. I'm not saying their movement quality is bad. Not my problem at all. I love their movement quality. I love their performance, but it still stems from the fact that I really feel at their age, we don't need to be diving so much into the sensual styles in the way that I've seen symptoms of for them. And I also noticed it from I think it was with I saw it with another group as well. So it's not just them. It's just my overall note, and I will stand by that forever. And now I know some people could say, oh, well, Jess, they have to learn how to do that in order to be in the commercial field. Why do they have to learn how to be animalistically sensual for the sake of getting a job in the industry? Why should they have to learn how to do that? That would be my rebuttal to that. Because I know there's certain parts of the industry that are not appropriate for anybody. Do you know what I mean? And it's just compromising to people. But sometimes people have the need, and this is real world, real talk right now. In LA, sometimes there's some work where people have to compromise their morals for the sake of a job. That's real life. That is a real risk that you run, and you can fall into very dangerous waters very quickly, especially if you're isolated in the West Coast. That's anywhere, but in LA specifically. Now, in this case, I feel like, yes, I think it's good to understand how to arch your back and create certain picture moments and understand how to dance in heels. That's fine. I don't feel we need to explore it so early in some dancers. That's my overall note. I feel like whenever they're adults and they're able to make those types of choices to pursue that, that can be their choice. I never teach my kids, because I can do this. I never teach my kids this, because I feel if that's something they want to learn, they'll do that they'll do that whenever they're old enough and they can make that choice themselves. But as an adult, it is my responsibility to make sure that we refine and we keep our children safe. That's my big note in all this. This was a freaking great performance nonetheless, outside of my big note of that. And this one was still very muted in terms of what I had seen from the very first time I brought this up. Because the facial expressions, you can really see that they've been heavily refined, and I'm very thankful for that, because we're just looking at movement now. I wasn't looking at faces, and I am appreciative of that. Also, everybody is wearing something more on the appropriate side. Woohoo, love that as well. And it wasn't that they weren't before. It's just there's just a lot of factors that go in to what can make something be deemed appropriate and inappropriate for an age group. That's just what it is. And so all in all, makes 150% sense why Jam Republic won, because when you look here, they were clean. They brought a different perspective to the table. They showcased different dynamics. They showcased their crew's colors. And they are, honestly, out of all the groups, the true depiction of world, because you have the whole world represented. You got people from New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Korea. So you have a lot of different parts of the world represented in this group in comparison to a lot of the other groups that are here. So they kind of have that going for them. Also, their mentors also have that world level experience, so they can really help them refrain or refine this to make it applicable to a global scale. So that's why for me, I think for this, they definitely did a wonderful job. They did a great job. Okay, so I don't want you to think by me saying what I've said that they did not come across as doing a good job. They did a phenomenal job. The problem is when you do too good of a job in a certain style that is above your age, that I feel is appropriate, that's where the questions get asked. But all in all, makes total sense. This was wonderful. I absolutely adore the fact they were able to get Miyabi in this, because I think that meant a lot to her, and it meant a lot to those who are fans of Jam Republic, and it feels complete, more complete than it would have been if it was just the four of them. Look what material they're wearing. I love that. This is fun. The usage of the props, it's fun.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or better known as ADHD, is a mental disorder.
One time for the praying on my downfall. Two times for the homies in the child hall. Three times for them on their knee who got ADHD just to
Okay, that's nice.
Whoa, turn the whole world to a crisis. Whoa, walk around the city with an ice pick. I've been paranoid, usually I ain't like this. Ain't no
And I murder with precision all over your television. I'm number one in you, it's just a subdivision. Never listen, we gon' even listen. That's the mission like ISIS.
Fun. Very strong. Honestly, MANNEQUEEN really brought it in every round, including their opener. Like, their opener was great. The first round, great. This round, great. So if we were really isolating just this round, they could have potentially taken top two, honestly. But for me, I would, if I were to do the voting, I would do it off of full picture. Jam Republic is the one. It makes sense why they won. They were the most consistent, and they grew effectively, and they brought more risk, and they brought more elements. And even though they lost members, they still maintained overall staging and presence, which is very hard to do when you only have 4 people, you only have 5 or 6 when everybody else has 7. So that's something when we're looking at big picture, Jam Republic is very deserving of it. I would even say 1 mil, even though their rounds weren't I don't think this round, the finals for 1 mil, I feel like for them, they really dropped the ball in the first round. But it didn't bother me that they did, because it looked like we got to see them experience joy on stage. But I don't think that it would have helped them scoring wise at all. I feel that if we're doing like a true ranking based on the entirety of the show, and that's how I'm going to rank it, is off of everybody's performance throughout the entire show, it would be Jam Republic, 1 million, MANNEQUEEN, Hook. Because MANNEQUEEN was kind of average until this very last round. Hook went from, oh my gosh, they're going to get eliminated very quickly, to here's us being competitive on par with all the other choreography teams. Then you have with Jam Republic, even though they were losing members, like I had already said, they are still showing up and showing out. 1 million is now running into the problem of, I would have given 1 mil possible top spot if they brought something more captivating, or they took more risks in their round 1 and 2, the way that Jam did. You know, if they did that in their finals in comparison to what they were bringing in the challenges. Honestly, I thought 1 mil was going to take this whole show based on just the first couple of challenges, but then seeing what they did in the finals, I really think they should get second. If we're looking at big picture, I don't know how the official lineup is, but that's what my official lineup is going to be, is Jam Republic, 1 mil, MANNEQUEEN, Hook, because that's just, I'm going off of the big picture of the entire show, not just the isolation of the finals. That's just me. But let's talk about MANNEQUEEN here from the beginning. I like this. Also notice the trend. You see what outfit they're wearing? Look at the material. I've talked about this material many a times before. When you see this, it's you saw this from Bebe, you saw this from Just Jerk, you saw it from Turns, you've seen this from a lot of groups, you saw this from Just Jerk Rookies. It's definitely like when you're pursuing this type of timbre or a finals type of performance, you end up seeing this type of outfit. They didn't come to play because this type of material shows everything, but it's a high risk, high reward, and I've said that every time I've noticed it. So I love how they're bringing up this energy here. I love the different directions that they're choosing to do on this, which is really nice. I love the makeup for this too, and I like the fact that we're not just doing just a one-dimensional outfit. It has multiple layers to it, and I like it how she's reaching up to the sky. She's going and picking it and draping it down, and notice as she reacts in space, the people below her are also reacting to it, which is really nice. They come up and they're looking. I don't quite know what they're trying to grab, if that makes sense. But I do like this overall. They're picking it up and then bringing it back down, which I really like. Having them drape down and then having them all bleed up was a really cool choice. Seeing this here, draping it through. I love just the utilization of these pops of technique. Like, I really love this. Now, there's a difference between studio technique and street culture, like street style technique, because street styles, they didn't have technique in their inception, but technique's been developed in the sense of trying to create some sense of regulation in actually doing choreography, or not choreography, but just doing movement proficiently. But something that I will note here is that MANNEQUEEN set doesn't feel as much like MANNEQUEEN as I would say their former set gave more of that energy. Not just because MANNEQUEEN, the actual crew, was with them, but when you notice like how MANNEQUEEN, they haven't quite figured out their identity as a crew. So this is still considered a big, you know, like a big risk for them. And I really liked it, but I don't feel like we've still quite seen, okay, this is MANNEQUEEN. Honestly, I thought what they did at their opener felt more of them as a group than what we see here. But I do like it. So do I feel like they matched the mission? Possibly, because I don't know the itemized criteria for it. Is there itemized criteria? Probably not. But that just all goes to show though, like I really like the different concepts that they're going with. But you notice with, for example, with Jam Republic, they do have certain timbres and tonal colors that are integrated in their sets that really showcase what makes them feel comfortable within the tracks that they use. And that's something that I feel like we don't quite have with MANNEQUEEN, which could have operated at a deficit for them in this specific round. But once again, I only go off of the Korean translation and Google Translate for the thumbnail, you know, title of this from Choom. So please take what I just said with a grain of salt. And that's not even a critique. It's just an observation from me as somebody who doesn't really speak Korean fluently. I got about a preschool level. I can survive in the country if needed. But yeah, anyway. But moving on from here, I love the bleeding through. Really cool usage of the prop leaning over, but you notice that we are taking a bit of a simpler approach. I said the same thing about 1 million and when they did their first round with Leah and with Harimu. It did feel a bit simpler in some of their content because they were trying to approach a more playful concept, so they ended up sacrificing some complexity with that, which is fine. Just like here, it's fine. It's finals. I don't freaking care. Every performance that we've seen is wonderful, sentimental, and very captivating in their own right. It's a competition at the end of the day, hence why some of my feedback is refined to that. I love this pull and the bleed through, which I really like. That energy, boom, boom, that was a really nice fingerprint. I enjoyed that. Bringing it through, boom, and a boom, and a boom. So we are seeing a little bit of a lot of these mannequin-esque, mannequin, mannequin-esque positions that I really like, and they kind of bleed it through into other positions, and I like that. And there's like a bit of a funk tonal color in the back that I really like too. It gives, honestly, I would see Wolflow murdering this track. It's just like, it gives that kind of their type of aesthetic bounce and rock look really nice on this. But it makes sense why some of their movements give off that little rebounded effect. It works for that track. This was nice to see, boom, 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 but notice that third one was a little bit too close to the second extension, which is why you didn't quite read it as effectively as the first versus the second. So that's my one note. This was a nice visual, but also, I mean, yeah, so that was nice. I know we have somebody moving their legs, and then one of them, she's extending her body back. You can tell as a giveaway because of her legs. You catch this girl's legs right here, and this is a second different person entirely right here. And then you see somebody right there. So I like the visual, but it's not quite as refined as it could have been. Then having somebody bleed over to the side. This was cool to have 2 people do it versus 1. That was fun. That was nice. We bled up and now she's there. Boom, bringing it back in. Setting it back up. Now they took a subtle, it's not quite, I wouldn't call it spoken word, but their intro definitely gave, like we're responding off of the tone and aesthetic of what sound we're hearing or what verbiage is being used in the way that it is, what filter, and so we have to interpret that. MANNEQUEEN, boom, here. Now this is a great example that I had referenced about Hook with the reverbs. Hook really struggled with the reverb choices and where they originated from. Here's a good example of it being done well. They're using their back by making sure that they hit it and it kind of stops around the same part of the music that it needs to. So that's a really good example of that. Looking up, DDD, notice people's head positions, they all move to the center as they finish within a particular phrase. So that was a really good choice. Walking forward. 5, 4, 3, and notice with 2 they had both of them come up. So that was a bit predictable for me because normally when you see people do 2, they do it in pairs. We do single single, on 2 they would do double, and then for 1 they didn't have anybody to come up, or it would be weird to have 2 people come up on 1 because 1 is a singular number. 0. Now this right here, I know they're going for the vibration. You can really see it because of the outfit, but not everybody's hitting it the same way. I do feel like we could have gone with a different interpretation for the Spanish guitar for that part, but because it's just predictable for how they were branching out of it for the but I liked it nonetheless. It was still fine. I enjoyed it. I love that part. Boom, boom, bringing it through. Now bleeding it off to another person, dropping it down, looking up, look to the front. Now notice not everybody's going at the same commitment of range, so that would be my note there. Carrying on the downfall 2 times. Yeah, so 1 time having the 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, then having everybody else turn on the second one, which is nice. Then having the close-ups, it is hard for me to see like a full cam, obviously, because we're looking at close-ups for features, so I don't know what everybody else is doing, so I can't provide notes there. That was very impressive. Honestly, the fact that she was able to have enough control to hit those kicks all the way through and step down on the right timing versus doing the and then have to bail out of it. Very impressive for that back walk over there. Yeah, crisis, whoa, doom. Yeah, so that section right there, that groove, you notice there was a lot of sounds, or a so I've choreographed to this before, so I'm more sensitive to this particular track because I know all of the nuances that are in that particular section. So my one note is, you notice they did write it a bit simplistic. They wrote on the ands. They didn't really go on the Andianas. They hit more like the and counts and the whole counts for that. The grooves are really nice though, but it's because we did have a bit of a simpler beginning with the usage of the prop. It didn't help their simplicity that they chose for that little section of their 8 count. But once again, it doesn't bother me. It's finals, you know. I mean, like I said, my ruling for what my final 4 would be in the lineup for the final 4, it has nothing to do with the isolation of the 2 rounds. It has to do with every group's presentation of the entire series. Because for me, I like to go off of, okay, you win. If you're going to win the show because you're the best street dance girl fighter crew, this isn't like HHI. This isn't like a choreography competition where you reset your score every challenge. You know, like, and I know that they do here, but those, when it's an audience vote or if it's a vote where it's based on people who've seen them in the show, does that make sense? I think that's kind of my overall note in this. So I like the energy pool right there. Cool, seeing that they did a good job on the formation. I think one of us just a tad bit off. If you notice right here, she could have moved up just ever so slightly, but it's still really nice to see. That Isis, that was a really good moment she had there. Yeah, drop. Really nice to see there. Yeah, boom, ding, ding, ding. I like that build up. That was super cool. And it was kind of rebounded or reverbed as they traveled it. That was a cool moment. That was cool. Ding, ding, ding. I don't know if it was quite as refined as it needed to be there, but also I got a camera cut. So yeah, because I couldn't see if that third group actually dropped their head at the right time because they cut the camera. But I do understand the intention they did. And notice because on that they did a vibration once again like we saw earlier, and that's why I would say at least in one of those choices make it a little different so it doesn't feel like we're doing a predictable or an overused texture or dynamic or movement technique there in a certain timbre. It feels a bit narrow and limited. So that's just my overall note for that little particular part. When you use vibrations, it's hard to not get caught up in certain timbres that just match really well, but you can repeat that a little too much if you're not careful. I love the reaches, really great on the finish. MANNEQUEEN showed up and showed out of all the groups. I think they showed the biggest jump in growth between the last challenge and in the finals. But my lineup still stands because going off of, for me, I would look at for a survival show, look at big picture. That's how I felt with Street Man Fighter, Street Woman Fighter. For Street Man Fighter, Just Jerk was the most consistent the whole time. I would say, did they take the most risk? I don't think so. I feel like Whedon Boys took more risks, but also they also didn't take enough like conceptually Whedon Boys took more risks, but their competency of complexity of content they didn't take as many risks. Proudmon took a lot of risks, and I really was rooting for them when I was reacting to the first season, but I understand, you know, with all this, that, and the other with their stuff. But anyway, but going here, I would look at full picture. I really think Jam Republic took it. They were the most consistent, 150% of the whole time. Even whenever they struggled on the very first interim challenge with all 7 of them, they had a lot of really nice moments, and they still placed second out of all of the groups underneath, I think it was Bebe and then Jam and then 1mil, I think was the lineup for that. So I think, like, you gotta give flowers where flowers are due. Jam Republic, they had the biggest things to overcome, and they overcame them, and they still showed up and showed out every freaking time. They were clean like all the other crews were. They captivated the stage just as much, even though they had less members, and they worked with the numbers that they had. So we gotta represent that. And even though I've said the most, just out of stylistic adjustments or performance adjustments from Jam, you cannot deny all the other elements that they brought to the table were very pleasing, and they definitely brought some incredibly captivating performances. So them winning makes total sense. For me, I still feel that 1mil would need to take second, even though their rounds here weren't the best that they've brought to the table before. They still held it down, and they were consistent, and they were cleaner than what we saw from Hook. MANNEQUEEN, I feel like all the way up until this is where they really showed up and showed out. So maybe in isolation, I think they would have possibly taken top 2, but if we're going off a full picture, I don't think they needed to take top 2, because they really didn't showcase as much innovation or risk-taking or synchronicity or those types of cohesions as a group until now, you know. And so that would be my big note for them. With Hook, talk about an underdog coming back strong. I'm very glad they made it to finals, so we got to see them perform in this way, but I still stand, because of where they started to where they ended up, they're still much cleaner and they're much more a group, but they do have the biggest synchronicity and cleanliness issues out of all 4 groups. So that's why I would put them as my 4th. But here's the thing. All of these challenges so far have been so captivating to watch. Round 1 and 2 were so competitive, as well as the previous challenge was, honestly, out of the entire franchise that I've seen, was the most competitive lineup of battles, like of choreographies that I have seen. You know, like, it was so close to me personally between all of them for different reasons. So that's what made this so much more enjoyable, is that you're not watching one group just struggle through. Like, from the last challenge up until the finals, it really felt like it was anybody's game to a certain extent. But when you really look at the full picture, it makes very clear sense why Jam won. And that, to me, because they also have a strong fan base, and I'm glad the fans got to go through and be able to vote for them, because it's really nice to see them to get their flowers, because they really showed up and showed out for both Street Woman Fighter Season 2 and for this. And it's crazy the parallels of what they struggled with in both shows, but it's nice for them to be rewarded here. There you have it, everybody. This is the, I mean, I know I have like one more thing to look at, but when it comes to just the performances and the actual, like, adjudicated performances of Street Dance Girl Fighter Season 2, we did it. We went through it. We watched it. And honestly, I'm very satisfied with who won. Jam Republic showed up. Every single challenge was something new, different. They took risks, and because they have so many different people from all over the world on their team, they had the most versatility options, but also the biggest risk of not being as cohesive. So they really rose to the challenge, and I think their mentors played a role in that, as well as them having to always adjust every time a challenge would happen because they would lose a member. It was so wild to me, but I'm so thankful that we got to see Miyabi in that round 2. That would have been really sad to only see just the 4 of them, but they still held it down with just the 4, and that's something that you can't negate. And that's the big thing too, is that some people could question why Jam won. For me, I wouldn't question it, because it was a toss-up between Jam and 1mil, but based on the final round, Jam took it, because out of the 2, and I think 1mil, they should have gotten second. I really I would be more surprised if 1mil did not get second place in this. And then for me, like I said, it would be with MANNEQUEEN and then followed by Hook. But everybody did so well, and it made it so much more enjoyable for me to take a look and analyze their routines, because they were good. You know, whenever it's not a great performance, it's a lot harder, because you have to refine information to not make it sound disrespectful to the effort they've put in, right? But also, you can't just overlook just obvious discrepancies within the piece. So it is harder to refine feedback that way, if that makes sense. But for me, this made it very enjoyable for me to be able to look and be like, there was an issue here, but I love this. Like, there was so much to love about all of the groups, and I'm very excited that I got to do this alongside you guys. I still technically haven't seen the full episode. I will by this time. By the time this gets released, this time tomorrow, I should at least be starting to watch it. So if you want to see my full episode reaction with refined information, because remember, I do refine my feedback as I watch the episode. I may retract some things that I may have said during this analysis. So please extend grace to me, because I'm only operating out of the scope that I'm given, which is just these excerpts of the episode. I don't have full context. So please be nice to me about that. And if you do have something interesting or a different perspective to present, I would love to hear it, because I love the discussions almost as much as analyzing. I love the discussions that follow, because part of this is I want to understand other insights that people have and they bring to the table, because I end up growing at the end of the day too. So once again, I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.